Welcome back, guys, to another MLB Showdown edition of our breakdowns here at Fantasy Sports Insight. I am Hold the Door DFS. We are currently running a $50 VIP for access to all of our premium coverage at Fantasy Sports Insight. But we also have a ton of free content here at our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe below, comment or like on the video. It helps get our videos out there even more. But we are super excited to continue to bring this. So continue to look out for MLB content, whether it's classic or showdown, almost daily, sometimes both. Today, I'm going to knock both slates out for you guys. We have some different lineup instructions, just as pitching will continue to change every slate every day with, openers and long relievers and some pitchers that are just on innings limits in general. So let's dive in. I would say for me, from more of a cash player who prefers to pay for pitching on Showdown, this year hasn't been that pretty from that perspective after our first game with Scherzer and Cole. But our first game tomorrow is Arizona and San Diego. We have Luke Weaver on the mound and Joey Lucchesi. Now, Luke Weaver is priced at $11,000. I don't really know what kind of leash he's going to get. The last actual report we saw anywhere was that they were pleased that he threw 50 pitches on July 8th. So, that is about 2.5 weeks ago. Doesn't really make me feel really confident on the road for Luke Weaver here at 11,000. Just seems like it's too expensive for someone that we know is going to either be on a short leash, maybe 70 pitches. I don't know if he's going to be in full throttle here. So Luke Weaver is probably a fade for me, at least in the captain spot. Maybe you can still play him as a floor play. He's definitely viable, but I think there's enough good bats here to like some nice pivots as well. On the other side of the mound, Lucchesi, I do like, just for the fact of the price discount. I do think he has a little bit more strikeout upside. And I think just in a short sample size that Arizona's lineups against lefties are always going to struggle a little bit more without the likes of Goldschmidt in the lineup, somebody that just was able to break that up. A lot of times they're forced to start Jake Lamb. They have Peralta, who's a lefty. They have Cole Calhoun. So, I mean, when they have to go to that platoon switch, it's not really lighting up the board by any means. So, let's take a look at the hitters. My first one that I really like here is Manny Machado, who has 2 home runs and 13 at-bats against Luke Weaver in the past. So I really like him, 7,600. He's actually priced up a little bit more than he was against Arizona, the other site, where he was like 6,600 or something ridiculous, which was way too cheap when he hit that home run. So I do like Machado quite a bit. If we're looking for value on this slate, obviously, you'll probably find some when lineups come out. But like Ty France has been starting a few games. Let's see. Yeah. He started on Saturday and hit 5th. So if he gets that spot somewhere in the order of 5th or 6th for the dead minimum, it's pretty tough to go wrong there. Otherwise, if we go up here, Greg Garcia could see a start. Jake Lamb, I can't do him against lefties. That was basically the reason why, his career has gone down or, kind of like spiked, and then they figured out that he couldn't hit lefties, and then they just stopped using him. So you'll likely see Hedges, maybe Mejia get the start at catcher for the Padres, who they will be cheap enough. Josh Naylor is a lefty, so he could get a start here against Weaver, but I don't really see him getting the start here with Grisham being a lefty as well. So that is the one thing that you'll probably see here a lot with San Diego. Like, Grisham is going to play against these righties for sure as a lefty. Will Myers is obviously really cheap, and likely you'll see like a 6th spot in the order. Profar has been seeing middle of the order action. So you're going to find some nice value here against Weaver or whoever comes in for him early on. And then my favorite pay-up options, obviously, Ketel Marte is an awesome cash play. Always is able to get on base, has steal potential. And same with Fernando Tatis Jr. I think he would be my next favorite play, him and Ketel Marte for hitters, because I just think that, Tatis is able to get walks. He's got upside. He got stolen base upside. Peralta against a lefty, I'd rather pass. Escobar against a lefty, he's good. He's fine. And Tommy Pham, I think, is a little bit underpriced here because he does have stolen base upside too. And he is facing a righty, which would reduce that ability to hold him on base. Walker is actually is not really all that great against lefties. He's like a 230 hitter, or he's at least like a 260 hitter against righties. So I'm fading Walker here. Cole Calhoun, I don't know that he'll make the lineup, but if he does, he's a fade for me against a lefty. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, a lot of these builds with so much rotation are going to, come to more fruition in the morning or whenever they get the lineups out. But I do think Luke Weaver is overpriced. You could use him in cash, but I'd rather, if you're going to use both pitchers, I would prefer to captain Lucchesi, use Weaver in a utility spot, and then try to, get Machado and Tatis, and then maybe punt the rest if you can make that work. You might not be able to get Tatis. You might have to go like Machado and Pham, or Machado and Grisham, or something like that. Depends on where the lineups come out, but just not my favorite. I'm not just, unless we get some report tomorrow about Luke Weaver, maybe like having a higher pitch count, 50, that last report of, him getting to 50 pitches 2.5 weeks ago does not seem like that's going to pay off that $11,000 price tag. So that's kind of where I'm at this slate. Lock in Machado and build around there, probably Lucchesi and cash. Let's move on to the Boston and Mets game. Now, this is where Showdown used to be super fun when relievers had boosted stats. You would get saves, holds, more points for a strikeout than a starting pitcher would. But I think due to casual players probably complaining and just wanting more people in the field, they went back to just, relievers get the same amount as a starter, which in my opinion doesn't make the risk worth it to try to pick a reliever, even if they're the dead minimum 4K, with the chance of them not actually pitching. Now, this slate, Josh Osich is going to be serving as the opener. He might only pitch 1 inning. He might pitch 2. I would say 2 is the max. And I would say 1 is more likely. So say if he pitches 1 inning, strikes out 1 guy and, gives up 1 hit, gives up a hit, gets a strikeout, gets out of the inning. Okay. So now we're looking at about 3.5 points or something like that. 4.5. Maybe he doesn't give up a hit. He just goes 1, 2, 3, gets 1 strikeout. So now for 4K, you're getting, 3 or 4 points. I don't think you're going to find, like Chavez, he's usually in more against lefties. But I think it's viable because you're creating a floor that he's actually pitching. There is risk, obviously, if it goes south, then you're going to get negative points out of somebody at 4K. But he is the dead minimum. So, I think that's kind of a spot you might have to decide how you feel on in that slate. Because then his potential long reliever is Zach Godley, who's at least projected right now. There's a chance, there's a lot of still things in motion here. Godley might not be the pitcher tomorrow, or he might only pitch 2 or 3 innings. And for me at 8,400, if he's only going to pitch 2 or 3 innings, don't really think that he's worth it over somebody like Bogarts or, Rosario, JD, depending on where the value comes out, because we don't have a ton of great plays on here. I think if Benintendi continues to lead off here against a righty and Waka, I really like him. Moreland, if he finds his way up, which he probably will in the lineup against a lefty, probably get a top 5 role. I like him. Jackie Bradley, again, with the platoon advantage. I like him at 5,000. So I think both sides of the bats here are viable. I think if you played like tonight's slate, you're a little bit biased against the Mets for how poorly they looked against some really bad pitching. But I think you can definitely go back to the well with guys like Rosario, McNeil, Alonso. Alonso hasn't hit his bomb yet, so that's pretty much due here anytime soon. Otherwise, I wouldn't be scared away from lefties on the Mets because they're likely only to see a lefty 1 time until they get into the bullpen. But I think you have to probably lock in Benintendi, assuming he leads off. And then I really do like Bogarts and JD. I like the Boston stack here, especially if I just decide not to use Waka at all, which I think is super viable. His floor is negative. His ceiling is like 10. So, I mean, I think in cash, if you're really wanting to have a sense of security, you could use Waka, but I don't think on the road in Boston is any place to feel really good about the most expensive player on the slate being somebody that could actually lose you points, let alone only have a ceiling of like 10 or 12. And that's, I think still kind of stretching it. I don't think he makes it through like the 5 innings. I think he gives up 3 or 4 runs, and then I think he's done. So I'd rather load up in the hitters, Devers as well. Can have that platoon advantage against Waka. So I'm on definitely on the Boston bats a little bit more, just because their prices are more favorable. But I do think that you will see runs on both sides. Cespedes at 6,800 is still viable, assuming he hits in the 4-hole, probably DHing again, which also, when he's DHing, likely keeps those potential pinch hitting situations out. Verdugo, assuming he gets a decent spot in the order, again, he's facing a righty, so he should get a chance. Depends on if they sit Bradley or who they sit. Again, someone who's viable, but I'd prefer to see him not hitting like 8 or 9. If he could get a spot like he was getting in the Dodgers, where he was batting like leadoff or second, at 4,400, that would be a steal. I still think he's, decent value at 4,400. So on this slate, decide if you're going to use that opener for Boston. He will not qualify for a win because he will not pitch over 5 innings. Your upside, if he struck out all 3, is like 7 or 8 points. His downside is negative, but I think you do have an assumed floor by just taking him at 4,000. So let's wait to see where the lineups come out, but that's where I'm at for this slate. Again, give us a subscribe if you want my core plays and my insight beyond what you see in the video. In our MLB room, that we have core plays for Classic and my own and my Showdown cores. Click that link on the bottom that says subscribe, and you will get right to our Discord channel and have access to all of our premium content at Fantasy Sports Insight for our MLB channel. All right, have a good one.